so this is the section on acquisition and disposition of the chapter on property, plant, and equipment. So first of all, we have to say, well, what is property, plant, and equipment? Can also be called planned assets, operational assets, fixed assets. This is more or less your land improvements, your furniture, your machinery, buildings, trucks, delivery vans, all that good stuff. Something that makes something property, plant, and equipment, in other words, we cannot classify something as property, plant, and equipment unless it has physical substance. You have to be able to bump into them. Like I can bump into the desk, you can bump into a truck. As opposed to, say, a patent, they have physical substance. They're long-term, generally lasting more than a year or so, and they are depreciated over their useful lives. They provide future economic benefit, which is the definition of an asset, but it's economic benefit for more than a year. And this is key, used in the operations of the company to produce their revenue-producing assets. They're not for resale to customers, such as inventory, and they're not idle equipment or idle land, which could be investments or some kind of other asset. Okay, so you have to really have down what is the definition of property, plant, and equipment. Okay, then we have to bring these various items on the books, and here we get a little bit more complex than AC 102, but basically here the initial valuation is going to be the cash or cash equivalent price paid plus all the costs to get whatever it is ready for its intended use. So it's basically your historic cost, what you would pay for it, plus the cost to get it ready to use. Okay, we do not write up assets as the market values of change over time. So a truck is likely to decrease in value over time versus a building, say on Tremont Street in Boston, bought in the 70s, that would appreciate over time, but they're both left on the books at their cost less accumulated depreciation. Okay, so let's get specifically to the cost of land. Okay, so here's where we get into a little bit more detail. The cost of land is going to include the exchange price paid, then you've got closing costs, title fees, attorney fees, broker's commission. Those would be all on your purchase and sale agreement for land. Also, any liens or past back delinquent real estate taxes or mortgages or other encumbrances, those have to be paid before the sale transaction can take place. And so it's only the back taxes that have to be paid before the title can pass to the new owner. Subsequent yearly real estate taxes are expensed every year, so it's just the back ones. Okay, so that's the purchase price of the land, all that's included. Plus, you got to get it ready for its intended use. So, the land you buy, it's got an old building on it you don't want, it's got some trees on it, it's got a couple of hills, and you want to get it ready for its intended use. And so clearing and grading, water and sewer lines, these are improvements that have indefinite lives. And they're generally public as opposed to private. In other words, the town will or town or city will take over the maintenance of them after you put them in. You have to get rid of that building. That's just in the way. So the demo of an existing structure, less any salvage value. Maybe it has some bricks in the chimney that you could sell, and that would reduce the cost of the land. But all of this goes into the cost of the land. Okay, so the basic purchase price plus the cost to get it ready for its intended use. Land improvements, I think, will be a new, also land would also have included with it the, like planting trees, like major landscaping, trees, stone walls, things like that. Just the really initial stuff that has to be done to get the place ready. Okay, so that's not like putting in flower beds. Okay. Land improvements, these are structural improvements that are man-made. So you've got your driveways, your parking lots, your fencing, lighting, and you have to use your imagination on that underground sprinkling system. These have a limited life, so they're depreciated. Say the sprinkler system would be private, that would be up to the owner of the land. But if you have to put in, like street lighting and stuff like that, generally the city would take over that afterwards. Okay, so that's your land improvements. You've got your buildings, you have your purchase price if you buy a building, and that would be all the usual closing costs, lawyers' fees, and commissions, plus if you needed to do anything to get it ready to use, like an addition or major renovations to the electrical, those would all be included in the cost, initial cost of the building. If a company buys a building, that's fairly straightforward. But if they build their own building, it's a little bit more complicated. There, it's would start with the excavation costs, or, well, you have to get your building permit and fees first, your architect design, then your excavation costs. So the initial clearing and grading of the land, that goes with the land account. Once you start digging the foundation, that's your building account that gets that. And then all your materials, labor, and overhead during construction. Okay, equipment. Again, you get your exchange price paid, which includes the sales tax, because you can't get it without paying that. Any freight and handling to get it where you're going, any insurance while in transit. And then you got to get it ready for its intended use. And this will vary depending on what you're talking about. So if you're buying a truck, according to the DOT rules, you have to have the name of your company painted on the side of your truck before you can drive it, or they'll nail you. So that would be part of getting the truck ready for its intended use. Any racks that had to be put in, any refrigeration units, things like that, tool racks. Machinery, maybe you need a new foundation to put it on, maybe you have to rearrange some stuff, get some new plumbing, that would be part of it, assembling, and then costs of trial run and testing. All the costs right up until it's ready to do its first run and it's ready to go would be in the initial cost. Okay, so the best way to really get these down is to do some of the exercises do some of the exercises, and then if you have questions on any of it, let me know.